is any help on the way for the New York Jets? I get this question a lot of times, live streams. Hey, defensive line, wide receiver, can we get somebody in here to help us out? And this is per Greg Rosenthal, a list of notable players with starting NFL resumes that are still currently unsigned. Do any of these guys fit the New York Jets? A couple names popping out right away. Obviously, wide receivers, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen. Now, both of whom on the back end of their career, their name probably holds a little bit more weight than the player that they are. Do we have 6 wide receivers better than either of them? No. Is that the only calculus? Of course not. How do you weigh rostering rookies, guys who play special teams? The Jets seem pretty comfortable with Josh Reynolds as wide receiver 2, but obviously both Cooper and Keenan Allen still at this point in their career would be able to start on the Jets if signed, I would say so. So sure, if they want to do that, and bump Lazard off, I would have no problem with that. But I think we have to be realistic in that those guys have a say too. And we talk about the Jets are going to be a very run heavy offense. And then Garrett Wilson's going to get a bunch. So how much passing volume would be available to them? Also, do they want to live in New Jersey, pay the taxes, the weather? It's a whole thing that goes into it. I don't know if this current Jets team is ideal for a receiver looking to come and have their final act. If we're just being completely transparent about that. So, and the Jets are dead set on their youth movement, man. They just haven't made any of these type of moves. And then let's be honest, those are some of the type of moves that have bit the Jets in the past with betting on names rather than, what is this player likely to do in the future? But again, yeah, those guys are probably starting for the Jets. Now, another spot that I think is maybe a little bit more realistic to get. There's also 2 players who are very similar in age and playing style and position. That is Adarius Smith and Jadeveon Clowney. Jadeveon Clowney, forever almost Jet. Flirted with the Jets last year. Obviously, different GM who was making that offer to Clowney. But Smith, to me, is the name that pops out and has been for a while for a few reasons. And number one, he played under Aaron Glenn's defense last year. They traded for him. The Lions did after Aiden Hutchinson went down. So he's got familiarity with the head coach. And he plays a position of need for the Jets. Edge is a need. It's not as big of a need as depth at defensive tackle or even wide receiver maybe, but edge is a significant need because Jermaine Johnson's going to be on a pitch count. And then after Will McDonald, you don't really have a player you're comfortable with playing a bunch of snaps with the information we have now. Maybe someone like Eric Watts or Tyler Barron could surprise us. But Smith, last year, he put up 10 sacks and 63 pressures, and he's been okay against the run as a 275-pounder. That sounds exactly like what the Jets need. Now, maybe the film says, hey, he's going to lose a step. We saw that with guys like Tyron Smith, where it seems like all the stats say this guy can still play at a pretty high level, and he comes to Jets immediately washed. I could give a bunch of examples of the Jets that happening in the past. So maybe the reason he's still a free agent is the tape is not as kind as the stats to a guy like Smith, or maybe he just doesn't want to be in camp. I don't know. But those 2 guys who could play in your base defense and allow Jermaine to come back slowly. And then also you're looking at a guy like Michael Clemens, who, if the Jets cut Michael Clemens, they save almost $4 million in cap. So if you could save $4 million in cap and cut Clemens and put that towards a guy like Zadarius Smith, I think that would be a worthwhile move for this team. Everything else, I'm seeing some corners. That's probably not going to happen. The Jets have their starting corners. Linebacker, that's not going to happen with Kazir White. Will Hernandez, if Will Hernandez wants to sign to be a backup, he'd be a phenomenal backup. And at 29 years old, ton of starting experience, and would definitely be an upgrade over Xavier Newman as the backup guard, because Josh Myers has only played center. But that would probably be a pricey investment. I don't know if the Jets want to make that investment at depth at guard, but he would help. So him or Clowney and Smith would be, I think, realistic targets for the Jets. I don't see them being in the wide receiver sweepstakes this summer, and we'll talk all soon.